So Arturus, Bob, thank you both so much for helping me out with this. First things first, would you guys like to go by what characters you guys will be representing for this fight, and what is the level of power that we will be going for?
Do you want to go first, or?
Sure, I'll go first. So the character I will be talking about is Death the Kid from the manga Soul Eater, specifically the manga, and I will be talking about his end of series true Shinigami form, with all three lines of Sanzu connected, and with the full power of the God of Death. Now, we don't see much of this form in the manga, but he should massively upscale from just about every feat that he performs in the manga, massively, by a massive degree. So I'll be referencing things from earlier in the story to sort of display his abilities and what he should be capable of on a smaller scale. And the sort of parameters for this fight were the range was continental to multi-continental, which Kid does sort of reach in his peak.
Okay. Is that all, or?
Anything else? I guess I should add. I will also be considering this. I will also be considering scaling from Fire Force, since the series shares a canon with Soul Eater, and a lot of the terminology is expanded and expanded in that series. So that is sort of a secondary source, but I will be talking about that when I get to it.
All right, cool. I will be repping Scion from the web novel Worm. I will specifically be using his avatar, not his true form. And I guess I'll occasionally mention some like other characters as well to kind of get a general gist of his physics breaking hacks and whatnot. And as for his power, he's very much into the continental to multi-continental range very, very easily. So, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Which of you guys would like to begin?
I will start off, and we're starting with speed, correct?
Whatever you guys want to start off with.
I mean, that's fine. But,
Yeah. So I'll start with, I'll just call him Kid Speed. So just to establish the my line of scaling, many of Death the Kid's feats in this form are directly scaled to end of series Black Star. This is confirmed by the main villain Ashra, who should be an authority on this. And throughout the series as well, Black Star and Kid are sort of rivals. They're always sort of right on the heels of each other. It does say in the panel that Kid is slightly weaker than Black Star, but the point is that they are in the same ballpark of power. So anyways, scaling from Black Star's speed, Black Star has reaction speeds of relativistic. He's able to intercept and even redirect beams of light. According to Versus Battle Wiki, this calculates out to about relativistic speeds. In terms of travel and flight speeds, Kid has his skateboard, Beelzebub, which he uses for most of the series, and that has likely anywhere between hypersonic to massively hypersonic travel speeds, given that he was able to travel from Egypt to Nevada within a short amount of time, likely less than an hour. So that is one thing, and this speed this is a very early feat in the series, so that should increase, and eventually, as Kid unlocks more of his Shinigami powers, he actually gains the ability to fly on his own, and that speed should be much higher, so approaching the higher tiers of massively hypersonic. Finally, Kid has potentially light speed attacks. One of Kid's most powerful attacks is his Parent 7 raise attack, which is specifically called Light. And even though this is talked about as a one-time attack, now that Kid has the full breadth of the Death God's power, he should be able to perform attacks like these without too much trouble. And that is my speed. That is Death the Kid's speed.
All right, nice and concise. I liked it. All right, Bob, whenever you're ready. Yep.
All right. So the Wormverse doesn't really have like too many speed feats for Scion to really scale over. He does have his own, where he basically just flies around the entire planet twice in a very short amount of time. I've posted the calc of that, and he also like blasts like the UK like when he's like in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So at bare minimum, like that's massively hypersonic to sub relativistic, specifically like him flying around the globe. There is one feat where specifically I don't know how to pronounce his hero's name. His name is David. He's like super powerful, but he's still below Scion. He catches his friend, a legend who can turn into light or whatever, and then he tosses him into the ocean. The way he does this, it isn't really explained because he can like change his powers out every so often. So it's not really explained if this is like a reactionary feat or is this like gravity or whatever. I wouldn't be too comfortable saying that like he scales to or like is necessarily above LS or whatever, but there is some arguments for it. So yeah.
All right, thank you. Bob, would you like to go into the next category? I like to do a back and forth, so one starts, the other one goes, and the other one starts, and so on and so forth.
Okay. I guess we can just do AC and DC. That's fine.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So with Scion's AC and DC, it's pretty straightforward. One of his like first like big displays of strength is him like straight up blowing up the UK in one blast very casually. It's further confirmed by other characters that's just straight up gone. There's other statements of him like blasting through continents and him like casually destroying continents just from like his startup attack or whatever. He also killed an Endbringer named Behemoth who like can manipulate all forms of energy, who like tanked time bomb, a light time bomb that like was gonna annihilate India. Scion proceeds to just disintegrate him like easily. Mind you, Endbringers like their bodies, like the less that they have, the more durable they are. Like their skin isn't more durable. Like the deeper you go, the tougher they get, and their cores are specifically like hyper dense to the point where like it messes with space time and whatnot. And Scion very easily killed him. He killed another Endbringer, Leviathan, very easily into continental and multi-continental for his attack potency in DC. So yeah.
Could I ask you a question? You said that he blew up the UK. How exactly, like, what abilities does Scion have?
Oh, well, that kind of to explain that, I had to kind of go into his hacks, but basically that's part of all-in-one ability. It's called Stilling. He can either use just basic energy blast, or he can just kind of negate and cancel out abilities.
Oh,
anything,
okay.
Really.
Okay, that's okay.
We'll talk more about that later.
Okay, perfect. Arcturus, whenever you're ready.
Yes, so Death the Kid's AP is interesting. There there are a couple ways you could approach this. One is very concrete, the other is more theoretical. I'll talk about both. So, according to Versus Battle Wiki, Death the Kid's AP at his peak is Continental. This is upscaled from Krona and Blackstar's feats of the former being able to lift open the mouth of the moon, and the latter being able to hold up and throw away one of the teeth of the moon that were pulled out. Those get up to country level and large country level respectively. And once Kid activates his Madness of Power, which is a thing I'll talk about a bit more once we get to hacks, his power increases dramatically, which puts him, which upscales him further to continent level. And Kid has this same power of the Madness of Power, and as we've established, he scales directly to Blackstar. He scales directly to Blackstar. Physically, they're able to exchange blows pretty evenly when they are both using their madness. So that is the... there's a bit more. There is also the matter of souls. So within the Soul Eater universe, you can sort of visualize a person's soul wavelength as a orb around their body. And so the larger that a person's soul is, the more battle power that they have. That is very consistent within the series. As you can see in one of these, the character, this character, Stein, has a sort of patchwork aesthetic. He is considered a very powerful character in the series, and his aura is a little bit larger than his own body. Now, you can also see, Kid's aura, when he unlocks his Shinigami powers, is roughly the same size as the moon. So that should tell you sort of the level of power that the Kid acquires when he becomes a true Shinigami. His father has a similarly sized aura. It's about the size of a city. So that's kind of just, no other character really has an aura like this. That's just kind of showing that they are in a class of their own.
Okay.
So I would argue that sort of the fact that his ascension to becoming a true death god does push him, at least peaks his head into the multi-continental ranges of power.
Okay. Quick question. So, Death City, if his aura is about as large as his father's, let's say give or take about the same, would that mean that like the Death City, we'll just call it, you mean that this city is basically like a continent, about the size of a continent in of itself? How large would you say this place is? Okay.
I don't know if there's an exact calculation. There's a reason why Death's soul is sort of just surrounding the city. It's because Death has actually sealed his soul into this city.
Oh, okay.
So that it just encompasses it. He can't move from this spot, but it sort of envelops this city.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it could be bigger, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, I'll take that into consideration. Perfect.
Now, there is another somewhat more theoretical way to get Kid's AP much, much higher than this, and that would involve going into Fire Force, which is the companion series to Soul Eater.
Okay.
So, within the Atsushi Okubo extended universe, there is a terminology called the Power of God. This is very consistent throughout the series as being like the ability to affect and change the entire world and even reality itself to a certain extent. This is most sort of directly attributed to Shinra Banshoman, which is sort of the final evolution of the main character Shinra, and also sort of the creator deity of this Soul Eater world. So Shinra Banshoman is able to affect the entire world, like alter the laws of reality even, and he is the one who creates the original god of death. And in the process, Shinra Banshaman sort of imbues death with this immense power. Not quite to the same level as Shinra Banshaman. Death doesn't really show those same abilities, but he does have these sort of like, it is implied as this same sort of like world affecting power. So it's Death is Death and Ashura as well, which is sort of an offshoot of Death. I'll get to that more later. You could argue that these characters have planet level attack potency, and Kid as well. Kid sort of inherits his father's power. So the way it works is Kid connects all 3 of the lines of Sanzu on his hair, and Death sort of disintegrates the original god of death, and Kid inherits his power. So you could argue that at the very least, Kid has the ability to be scaled to planet levels of power. This is not as concrete, which is why I'm sort of adding it as an asterisk to my original argument. But I think it is worth mentioning, and I will expound more upon this when I get to hacks specifically.
Okay, perfect. Arcturus, if you want to go next, you're more than welcome to.
Yes, so durability. So once again, Death the Kid's raw durability scales to Black Star. They both are able to fight the Kishin Ashura with about the same amount of effectiveness, and they take as similar amounts of punishment. So specifically Kid, he is a death god, or a sort of death god in training. So his biology is slightly different from ordinary humans. He is said to have a, quote, repellent constitution. Things like poison or radiation sort of are less effective, or potentially not even effective at all on him. He even has some minor resistance to existence erasure. At one point, he has to enter a magnetic field that, if you stay within it for too long, literally erases you from the world. And Kid believes that because of his Shinigami constitution, he should be able to stay in there for longer than a normal person. Additionally, Kid has regeneration. A much weaker version of himself is able to reconnect one of his arms to his body when activating his powers. And if you scale him to his father, Lord Death, Death at one point gets half of his entire head blown off and sort of regrows that quite within seconds. So Kid should have regenerative abilities on close to that level at least. He can also produce shields to increase his durability and block particularly harmful attacks. And he has a very high pain tolerance. As I said, he at one point takes the Kishin takes out a large portion of his shoulder, and he's able to keep fighting on. So he can take a lot of damage and heal from it, and that is sort of the breakdown of Kid's durability and endurance.
Perfect. I'm not gonna lie, I'm really liking the art style. Like, I forgot how much I like the Soul Eater's art style.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, Okubo's art style is genuinely one of my favorites in anime and manga. It's very, very evocative.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, Bob, whenever you're ready.
Okay. So for Zion's durability, he has 2 really notable feats, specifically for, like, the parameters for this debate. He gets hit with the G drive, a upgraded version of the F drive, the permanent drive. That at least that's what string theory calls it. The character that invented it said bomb, the F drive, was capable of knocking the moon out of orbit. The upgraded version of this, Zion just shrugs it off. It only just pisses him off more. He gets hit by a similar effect later on, and he also just shrugs it off again. This has been Calc 2 multi-continental. So, yeah. He does have regeneration, but I don't want to talk about in this section specifically because it kind of relates more into his, I guess you can say, true self, and it isn't necessarily regeneration in the usual sense. So I'm just gonna end it off there.
Okay. Honestly, that sounds interesting. So the F drive, right? You said it knocked the moon off of its orbit.
No, it can.
Oh,
knock
it
the moon
can.
off their orbit. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Wouldn't that be like a moon level ability, not so much
You
like
would,
a multi-continental?
you would think, but versus battle capped that to be multi-continental. So
Okay.
I'm just going for that.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. Perfect. You can move on to the next point you want to make. We already gone over 3, so if you want to go over Haxes now, you're more than welcome to.
Okay. So this is kind of where Zion really shines, as a lot of his ability, as a lot of what makes him dangerous comes from this section. I kind of want to go from the bottom to the top, from his more minor to more dangerous abilities.
Okay.
First, yeah. So first, we're gonna start with his sensory abilities. He has a very high perception of or understanding of his surroundings. He can pretty much sense almost not everything, but he can sense like the sun going around the earth, people, places, and stuff like that. He can even do this on a multiversal scale. So the chances of him being caught off guard are very low. He can also hop to different dimensions or universes more like whenever he feels like it. Um, some heroes try to run away from him to an alternate reality on a different Earth. He casually just found them. Mind you, there are like a bunch of different universes, yet he found them very easily. Um, then we get into his precognition, which will also begin to another ability, which is very dangerous. He's able to very easily see into the future. This does burn through some of his lifespan, but it doesn't really come up a lot because he has a very big lifespan. Well, specifically the body he made has a big lifespan. Specifically, I believe it's 3,000 to 600 and something years. Um, yeah, and then he has a essentially a ability that allows him to know how to win a fight. It kind of just tells him what he needs to do and what he needs to know in order to beat or overcome said situation with the abilities he has at his disposal. For instance, he was fighting another hero, a person that he never even knew, like personally or anything of that nature, and he completely crushed his morale with 4 words. He knew exactly what to say, what to do, and he just killed him afterwards. Then there's his bread and butter, stilling, as I discussed or talked about a little bit earlier. Essentially, this ability allows him to just cancel out, negate, and nullify basically anything to I'm assuming a certain degree. I don't want to go into NFL territory, but he can kind of just stop anything he wants. He's cut through people on a molecular level. He's been able to cure cancer with this if he wanted to. He can suppress fire. He can suppress water. He can break through time loops. Even characters that are essentially supposed to be indestructible. This character is called the Siberian. He can essentially just like make certain laws of reality not apply to her. Scion just one shots her casually. Yeah, he can basically just cancel out anything. Again, up to a certain degree. Um, yeah, that's about it.
I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
I had a brain fart. I had a complete brain fart. I almost
Take your
forgot
time.
about the regeneration.
Oh yeah,
That's my
regeneration.
bad.
Okay.
Yeah. For his regenerative abilities, he doesn't necessarily regenerate in the usual sense. He basically replaces matter from his original body to his avatar. So it doesn't so technically he would have a limit, but it's been described as a bottomless well by multiple characters. Um, so yeah, it's like imagine you have like this big building, right, of matter, of mass. You have this man-shaped person, and it's kind of like a cookie cutter thing, right? You take out some, you can just grab some, put some in there, or whatever. To basically kill Scion, you would either have to somehow erase all the matter, like just beat him up so much, or kill the entity, which is in another dimension that you sealed off. Yeah. Now I'm done. Sorry.
Okay, so original body exists in another dimension. Okay, so let me get this straight. This motherfucker is supposed to be continental? What the fuck? What the fuck?
His avatar is continental, at least from what he's shown.
Okay.
True form it is he's ridiculous.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so we're only talking about the avatar. Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
Because I was about to say, once you go on.
If it was the warrior entity, I would be screwed.
Yeah, this wouldn't be a debate. Yeah.
Yeah, no, because you said negates everything, cuts through people at a molecular level, etc. Stops time loops. I'm like, there's no fucking way this dude just caps out a multi-continental. What the fuck are we talking about?
I'm sorry. He specifically, the thing is that for the series, his species essentially are, well, specifically him. He's the progenitor of all the abilities of the people on Earth, all the heroes, all the villains. He specifically set it up so he had the best shit. Basically, it doesn't matter what they throw at him. He can just negate it. He can use this offensively and defensively. So even if something seems like it's working at first, he'll just become immune to it.
This motherfucker's
That's just how
Maharaga.
Maybe. Shit. He might cut through his adaptation. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you say he negates abilities, he's definitely one-shotting Maharaga regardless. Okay, cool. All right, Arturus, you can go ahead with hacks, bro.
Yeah, we got a lot to.
Yeah. Start sweating a bunch of. Start sweating.
Yeah. So, anyways.
Yeah.
So kids' hacks are not quite as extensive, but there are a few interesting things.
Okay.
The main thing here is that he is a Death Meister. He is able to use Meister weapons, which are basically people that can turn into weapons and synchronize their souls with their handlers in order to increase their powers. So Kid uses two weapons. Their names are Liz and Patty, and they are handguns. So he uses a lot of projectile-based attacks, and specifically, his bullets are formed from his soul wavelength. So he theoretically never runs out of ammo so long as his soul remains sound and intact. And he can also increase his. He also has very good synchronization with his Meister weapons. They've never really, if they're out of sync, if a weapon and their handlers, if they're out of sync, they sort of they fall out of power. They don't have as much power. Kid has very good synchronicity with his weapons. They've never really had a conflict, at least not anything that like disrupts their rhythm in a fight. Kid also should have a certain amount of durability negation with soul wavelengths. You can see how that works with other characters like Blackstar and Stein. Kid should have soul wavelengths that are at least vastly superior to them in terms of quantity and likely in terms of quality as well. He also has the ability to resist illusions and mind manipulation. Ashura has the ability to sort of instill fear in people and make them panic. Kid knows how to sort of counter this. He knows the techniques. You can see Ashura's illusions are so powerful that they can even force weaker-minded people to commit suicide if necessary, if they can't resist them. And moving on, the sort of main ability of the highest level of soul abilities for Meisters are Soul Resonance, in which they sort of unify the powers of their soul, and they gain a massive boost in a variety of new abilities. Let me take a look at these games to sort of get my point. Yes, so Kid, his shots increase much bigger. He can produce cannons as well, which have a much bigger area of effect. And another ability he can use to amplify his power, his strength, is the Madness of Power. Now, within Soul Eater, madness is a sort of... it's hard to describe. It's sort of an ethereal force that anyone can tap into. It's like... it's sort of like the nature of obsession, or... gosh, this is hard to describe. Anyways, the point is, it's something that people can tap into at the cost of their potential sanity. So, Kid at one point is able to access the Madness of Power, which gives him a massive boost and makes him able to keep up with Blackstar in the same state. If he uses it too recklessly, he may go insane, but by the end of the series, he has more or less fully mastered this ability, so it's not much of an issue. Finally, Kid's most potent ability, the one he gains upon ascending to a true Shinigami, is the Madness of Order.
Okay. Yeah, I see it right here.
Yes. So, the way it's described, this is a bit of a wonky translation, but the way it's described is officially... it's an intense madness so strong that it could even eclipse all human emotions and leave a mechanical cycle of life and death. So basically, this is planetary range mind hacks. In another translation, it says it sealing away human emotions and turning them into puppets. So basically, it's able to affect the way... It's a bit of odd wording in both cases, but the way I view it is that it's able to sort of like... You can basically control humanity to sort of perform and emote in the way that you want to, or lack thereof. And what I think is important, in most cases, Kid doesn't use this ability on principle. He believes that humanity deserves their freedom and he doesn't need to control them. But Ashura, who is his brother, is another son of the god of death. He has his similar ability called the Madness of Fear, which he uses freely to sort of inflict fear upon the world. And there are points where Ashura implies that if Kid fully embraced the Madness of Order and used it freely, he could be on Ashura's level. And Ashura's like the top dog of the verse at this point. He is he's far stronger than just about anybody. He is able to fight evenly with a Lord Death himself, who, as I mentioned before, has this like planet level potential. And to return to Fire Force for a bit, it is heavily implied, but almost confirmed, that Ashura is the reincarnation of the Evangelist, which is sort of it's the physical manifestation of the Platonic ideal of despair and fear within the human's collective unconscious. So it's sort of this thing that just persists no matter what. Ashura, I forgot to put a scan for this, but at one point Ashura says that he can't die. He can't be truly defeated because there will always be fear and madness in the world that fuels him. Even Shinra Banshoman, again, the undisputed god tier of the verse, isn't able to fully destroy the Evangelist / Ashura, only sort of disperse him, like send him. It's unclear, but just like get rid of him for the time being. So anyways, this is again further this is sort of further proof that a fully unrestricted kid could have like planet level to potentially even universal mind hacks and emotional hacks with his Madness of Order.
Holy shit, kid is insane. Holy shit.
Oh yeah.
So like, okay, for the purposes of a battle, we're still sticking to like to continental to multi-continental, but let's just say like
Yes.
off of a like, okay, bloodlusted, they're going to go for it regardless. Nobody else is like, within the weird scape that we're setting up. He would definitely like just shoot up. Okay. Okay. So okay, that's interesting. So the Madness of Order, he can just use that whenever he wants.
It's implied, yes.
Okay.
in
He
his
just
Madness.
chooses not to. Okay.
He chooses not to, yes.
That's insane, dude. Holy fuck. Damn, what's crazy? I was like looking through all the scans. I forgot to type that stuff up into my phone, but it's all good. I'm not gonna have you repeat any of that. No, I got the gist of it though. Okay, so finally, I just want to ask you guys how you guys think the fight will go down. Arcturus, you can go first, then you, Bob, and then I'll just give you guys a chance to, just have a little bit of a back and forth.
Yes.
Okay, so go
so
ahead.
before that, I'll add a few more things.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Kid's battle IQ and tactics that he uses. He has a variety of his special martial arts called Reaper Taijutsu, which is something that he uses. He can use for a variety of abilities, most of which are lethal. His fighting style, it's very precise and efficient. He hardly ever allows opponents to get any openings once he's sort of locked into killing them. He has a tendency to go for pressure points. Again, this is sort of his like efficient nature. He likes to do things neat and clean. He tries to end a fight quickly whenever he can. What else? He has exceptional agility. Even among the main cast, he is able to, as you see, deal with Danmaku type attacks with lots of projectiles around him. He's able to sort of dodge and weave around them. He's also able to fight against and react to hundreds to thousands of different projectiles and attacks at once, and counterattack as well. And that is sort of the extent of his. That's a pretty good setup of his power. Anyways, as for the fight itself, there is the way I see it. This fight, if it doesn't start in the air, then Kid would pretty likely take it to the air quickly. I believe that Kid would perceive Scion as a threat, and immediately go in, get some quick, decisive attacks to try and take him out. Kid's speed scales much higher than Scion's top speed, as we've seen in the series anyways. So I believe Kid should, at least at the very outset, get in some pretty good hits, if not outright take him out. Assuming this doesn't work, Scion will probably start sending out his stilling beams. Now, these stilling beams are going to be a problem for Kid, because they do specifically work on wavelengths, which is, again, in Kid specifically uses soul wavelengths. So if he gets hit by them, it's probably going to be trouble. I believe, though, I don't think Kid would allow himself to get hit dead on by one of these. Again, his speed is much higher than Scion's. If he does get grazed or something, I think Kid's Shinigami biology should be enough to sort of save him from fully dying. And if his soul wavelength is damaged in any way, he can use soul resonance to sort of amplify it and amplify it further. And I would also like to say that Kid's soul, his very, very potent soul, which is, the size of a moon, is almost certainly bigger than anything that Scion has ever had to deal with. So it's possible that the stilling might not be that effective. Again, that's just a possibility, but either way, Kid can use soul resonance and madness of power in order to boost his stats. At this point, the fight will probably draw out for some time, since they both can regenerate. They'll just kind of keep duking it out, dealing more and more damage to each other. If Scion begins adapting to Kid's arsenal, I could see him pushing Kid back. And if Kid is really up against the wall, he would unleash his Madness of Order to stun Scion, at which point Kid would pull out his go for the kill with his largest attack possible and try and take out Scion in one shot, and I believe he could do it then.
Okay, I like that. Wonderful. Okay, Bob, whenever you're ready.
Ready? Probably should have wrote a little script for all of this, kind of off on tangents. But so for the fight, I believe that Scion will, like what you said, that they'll probably just go into the air for a little bit. Scion will probably be surprised at his speed and will essentially just look into the future and kind of see how the fight goes. You'll probably just see him trying to chase him down or whatever, him adapting to his attacks or what and stuff like that, and maybe not being able to get decisive blows. So he'll probably just look into the path of victory, and will just either figure out the best way on how to, I guess, physically beat him or mentally destroy him, possibly abusing his, if I remember correctly, Kid has a perfectionism problem. He might just use that to he might just use that to fuck him up.
Symmetry specifically.
Yeah, symmetry. Yeah,
he's obsessed with things being symmetrical.
Yeah,
he hates it when something is asymmetrical or disorderly.
Yeah,
early in the series, it's a very big problem for him. But
So
he does sort of get over it by the end of the series, but it is still there.
So you're saying oh, he'll just rip off Kid's coat sleeve or something, just really
maybe,
fuck with him.
or he might just lie. And as for his stealing,
okay,
I don't really think power necessarily matters in this regard. As you said, he had a wavelength. He's kind of just bypasses durability and just ridiculous powers and whatnot. As I said before, the Endbringers are supposed to be really dense and kind of and fairly resistant to a lot of abilities too, and he just tears right through them. And I'm just curious, you said that Kids regenerative abilities might save him, but what would happen if Scion just turns his brain off or something like that? Could he come back from that, or
Hmm.
because he can pretty much just still your entire body from like literally like stop moving and like down to like the cellular level, like blood, neural
Yeah.
function, all that stuff.
I
Just like
that is a
clapping.
tough one. I don't have like a sort of direct counter to that. As I
Mhm.
said, Kid sort of has abnormal Shinigami biology, so that may help.
Yeah.
And as I recall, Scion stilling takes the form of like visible beams and structures,
Not
right?
necessarily. Kind of. It can be a beam or an orb, or he can just use his bare hands. It can be
Yeah.
offensive and
The point
defensive.
is that
Yeah.
it's like it's not like a hit scan thing. It's a physical thing that has to travel to hit Kid.
That is fair. He could also just go to another universe and come back and catch him off guard. There's either he can just like mentally fuck with him, like with his symmetrical, like you say, his perfectionism. My bad, I can't remember how to pronounce the word. Or he can try and catch him off guard. I'm sure his path to victory can just show him the right way how to take him out. And once he starts hitting him, the kid's kind of just screwed. I don't think his regeneration will save him. He's negated and canceled out a lot of other complex abilities, and yeah.
Could I ask something real quick? So you said that Scion's travel speed is massively hypersonic, so Kid would be at least relatively much faster, at least 2 to 3 times faster, let's just say.
It depends, because at a bare minimum, the calc says like it's massively hypersonic. You could highball it and say sub-relativistic at least. So
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, if or do you either of you two have anything more you want to add, or should we just get to the verdict? Because I want to just give like a couple of minutes, well, whenever we get the chance, so I can like see if I can break this down as best as possible, at least so that it can make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so from what I can tell, even with like a alleged high ball for Scion being sub-relativistic, Kid would still be relatively faster than him. Now, I was happy that Arcturus did bring up that Scion stilling does need to make at least some form of contact. From the scans, that do they have to make contact, or do they not have to make contact? I just want to be clear.
His beams do, but he can do like kind of invisible AoEs, like by clapping his hands or setting up an orb that has like an effect. So technically, it doesn't have to be a visible contact, but it has to contact in some sense.
Okay. Has he ever had to deal with attacks that directly target the soul?
No, but I don't think that would work on him, considering that is not his real body and it's just a meat puppet.
It's just a meat puppet, right. It seems that like both at least have relative attack potency and durability. Maybe you could give a bit more to Kid, depending on, how you want to scale the whole like giant moon thing. But the whole like splitting down to molecular level, I don't know if Kid can necessarily tank something like that. Has there ever been an example where like Kid could tank something that just rips apart the that can just like split him down to like the molecular level? I know you brought up before the whole idea of like he was dealing with, what was it, electromagnetic waves?
Yeah, it was an electromagnetic field that
right.
kind of erases you. Yeah.
So you could make like maybe an argument that like that could be enough. Granted, I don't think like Kid's constitution, because you said that he would be able to last longer. That doesn't necessarily mean that he would be able to tank consistent hits.
Yeah, it's resistance, not full immunity.
And like I said, stilling doesn't like it. It's a bit complicated, but it isn't necessarily just attack. It nullifies. It's like just turning off your body and certain physics and powers and a lot of bullshit. It's just a bullshit.
Oh, no, yeah. Can I ask you both one thing? How how long can either of these two go if, like, let's say they were just willing to go for a fight, right? Like, hypothetically, let's say both characters, they can just go at it for a while, an indeterminate amount of time. What's the longest each one of your characters has been able to, like, go in a consistent fight before, like, just tiring out, they can't do anything else?
I'm pretty sure, at least from what it seems like, Scion doesn't have stamina issues at all. He kind of just went around saving people 24/7 for like 2 years, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Like just straight. So, and his lifespan is like I said, like 3,600 years. That's so I don't. It basically indefinite if he kind of needs to. I'm not sure about Kid though.
Yeah, Kid. I don't know if Kid is ever like tired. We've ever seen like Kid tired out from a fight. We do know that he can fight for hours at a time. Again, Shinigami biology might be different. That it kind of allows Kid to not need to sleep or rest as much as a normal person, but we know that he can at the very least fight for several hours without issue. In the fight against Ashura, the issue was more that Ashura was so much stronger and not necessarily like the length of the fight.
Okay. So then one last question. If Kid uses the power, the madness of order, if he uses it over Scion, do you think that would give him a win?
I kind of doubt that because I believe it was stated that like emotional based abilities and don't work on him, and there are abilities that do affect the mind, like powers that make you forget people or make you think that they're friends or things of that nature. I think even the main characters start like controlling people and shit. It just I doubt it'll work on him, especially since he's not human to begin with.
Yeah, it's a tough call. I thought about this a lot in my research. I think it's possible since Scion does specifically have kind of like an underdeveloped mind, emotions. It could be more effective in that case.
No, go on.
No, yeah. And also since again, the Madness of Order could be like planetary level potency that could be above what Scion is capable of handling. So it's again, it's very very vague, this sort of power, since we don't actually see it in action.
Well, the thing is, like for Scion, like I said, stealing, it's offensive, defensive. It just negates things or whatever.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm not. It maybe you could argue it because it's on a higher scale, but that's debatable because like the abilities of his species go on to a very high scale, but maybe you could argue his stealing is kind of scaled down to his avatar.
So quick question then. For stealing, is it like instant negation, or does it have to like take up amount of time? Does it have to like, is it like Maharaga where like the longer the stealing is in effect, or if it's like stealing for a specific amount of time, then it just straight up negates after a certain point?
It is practically it isn't instant for everything, but if it doesn't work the first time, like say he blasts you once, he just needs to make a quick tweak and it's gonna tear right through you.
Okay.
And sometimes even for like more ridiculous abilities, he just casually breaks through them.
Okay. I think I've come to my decision, at least personally. From the sound of it, I feel like at least off of an initial start of the fight, I feel like Kid would have an advantage just based entirely on speed. Both characters seem to be at least relativistic in terms of just raw damage output. So the thing is that like because they both seem to be relativistic, at least from what you guys have explained to me, it seems to me like the speed advantage just isn't going to be good enough, especially if Scion has just this many stupid broken abilities like stilling, what was it, path to victory, the whole seeing into the future thing. I feel like it's essentially, it would have to be at least an out of character thing for Kid to basically perform like the Madness of Order again, just going under the assumption that like it would work even if it's like premature, like not prematurely, even for like a short amount of time, right? Like even if we can agree like, okay, well, let's say Madness of Order does work on him for a couple of moments, Kid would essentially have to just one-shot him at that point, and even then, from what you've mentioned, he has like the ability to just replace the matter from his body, which is essentially a bottomless well. So, you know, if his physical being just gets brought back into existence or from wherever the hell it's coming from, then Kid would, then, you know, he would essentially already know about, you know, the Madness of Order and just start preparing the proper countermeasures for it. Eventually, you know, even if you don't think that like Kid would get tagged very consistently, or, you know, even with the ability to see into the future, he would be able to make up the speed difference. Eventually, I feel like the whole thing about like him, you know, being able to save people 2 years straight, I don't think a couple of hours can necessarily get Kid to the same level of stamina. I feel like eventually he might run out, and either way, so I feel like whether it's a war of attrition or whether it's just overpowering him with hacks, I feel like Scion just straight up has this. I think it's.
I will say, I will say he does not have relativistic attack speed. That was like specifically his travel speed.
Oh, specifically his travel speed. What is his attack speed? Can you remind me of that?
It's massively hypersonic.
Okay, massively hypersonic. I mean, either way, right? Like, Kid would have to consistently be on the move trying to dodge him. And even if, like, you know, at least from my understanding, whether the ability... Let me slow down. The stilling, you know, whether it's that orb that you were talking about or, like, the beams, etc., you know, eventually he can just keep throwing this shit at Kid and, you know, eventually Kid is going to run out of gas. You know what I mean? Like, the moment one of these things touches him, it might just be clipped. Wow, this was interesting. No, this is definitely interesting. You also got me, like, to really look back into, like, not Black Clover, Soul Eater, just because, like, the art style is really pleasant to look at, I've noticed. Scion sounds insane. Worm seems like a really interesting verse. The whole, like, G drive, F drive, I kind of like to, like, see a little bit more into it. But yeah, as far as I can say, I'd like to give the W to Scion.
Yeah, I mean that's extremely fair. I knew this was going to be like an extremely difficult fight for Kid.
Yeah.
Just at a glance.
Yeah, originally I was gonna go with a weaker character. What's his name? I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's
Eidolon?
Yes.
Yeah, Eidolon. Or Eidolon.
Yeah, that would have been. Yeah, you would have to give him like at least some good starting abilities, and even then,
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Thank you so much, Bob, Arcturus. Thank you guys so much for joining me here. This was extremely interesting. I feel like you guys went very in depth into your scaling. I like all the information you guys brought up. Thank you both so much for, you know, just the courtesy of, you know, just keeping this as chill as possible. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
If you guys have anything you guys want to add?
It's a lot of fun, thank you.
You know, even though I low key, I probably should have made a script of this just to get all my points in order.
Oh no, you're fine. I think you made good points, all things considered. I mean, if you ever want to do another one of these, you're more than welcome to. If you feel like you need to make a script or not, I mean, you know, do what you think is best. But I really do appreciate you too. This was very insightful. I find it interesting just how, to the extent that, like, you know, some writers are able to make these overpowered characters, you know, like multi-continental for a guy that can do all of this shit, like I said earlier, is kind of insane to me. But
his true form, his species basically just by talking can produce supernova levels of energy just by speaking to each other.
What the fuck?
They have pretty much all the abilities from
yeah,
like the breaking laws of physics and time manipulation. They have all that and more in space.
Right. And I'm definitely might be looking back into like Soul Eater. I might look into Soul Eater first, and then I might go back into Fire Force. I might like give the anime another go at it. But yeah, no. Arcturus, this was really interesting for Death the Kid. I will say, like, the idea of, like, the Sansu lines and how, like, he's able to increase his damage output through them, his soul resonance, I think that's extremely interesting. I like the points that you brought up, especially with, like, the madness of order and the, what was it, the madness of power.
Yeah.
The comparisons between him and Black Star are also interesting to me because it also seems interesting that like the characters seem to be consistently relative to one another throughout their entire story. So it makes it easy enough to scale as well. So yeah, that's actually really insightful into it. Thank you both so much again.
Yeah, it's good to be here. This is great.
If you guys ever want to do another one, let me know. We can have more of these, or if you guys want to like go up into like higher scales of power for any of the characters you guys would like to talk about, you're more than welcome to. And yeah, I'll be talking to you guys later then. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right, no
Yeah.
problem.
See you later.